Good afternoon and welcome to Overcomers Talk. I am your host, Minister Carrie Ann Zamore, and I am so excited to be back with you. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July last week. And as you can see, my co-host, Minister Damietta Jeffers, is absent today. Minister Jeffers, have a wonderful time with your family. I'd like to give honor to where honor is due, of course, and that is starting with the overseers and the visionaries of this show, and that is Apostle Dr. Lincoln Coffey, who is the senior pastor of Open Fire International Fellowship Church, as well as Assistant Pastor April Coffey, who is also one of the visionaries of this show. Hi, Pastor. Hi, First Lady. I hope you guys are having a wonderful time. Well, I tell you, today's show is, oh my gosh, it is going to be so amazing. The story is heart-wrenching. It is heartbreaking. It is a story of love. It's a story of overcoming obstacles, all sorts of obstacles. We are talking to Serenity and Antonio Edward. That is Antonio and Serenity Edward. And let me give you just a tidbit about who they are before I introduce you to them. They have been married for 20 years, and so that is very rare nowadays, so I'm going to give a clap on that one. So they have been married for 20 years. They are Army veterans, and we're talking about the Gulf War, like the first one.
That's me.
Army veteran, the Gulf War. They are disabled. They're going to talk about that a little bit. The story that we're going to share here today is a story of agnosticism, non-believing, to becoming part of a church media team. The story is one of homelessness to award-winning filmmakers. The story is one of a near-death experience to thriving and surviving. My guests today, Antonio and Serenity Edwards. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
I love your shirts.
Yeah.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing, and you're his good thing.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And did I get it right, your intro, your bio? There's just so much more to it.
Yes, it is.
And I know that you guys are going to share an amazing story with you guys. When you hear Serenity's story, of your near-death experience, you guys make sure you tune in. All right, make sure that you grab somebody, because this is truly a story of overcoming an obstacle. So I want you to go ahead, get your phones, get your iPads, whatever equipment you have, go ahead and share this with at least 4 or 5 of your friends, because you guys came from a part of agnosticism. But you were believers at some point, then became non-believers, and it was agnostic, and now you're working in the church. You're worshiping in the church. Oh my
We're
goodness.
members of the church.
You're members of the
Yes,
church, and
we're
so
part
I
of
am
the church
so
family.
excited. And
Yeah.
so, but before we do that, so do you see why I say you have to stay here? You have to stay here because there is a story of, wow, so much in here. So Antonio, there's just so much to you and what you do. Who is Antonio Edward?
Wow, Antonio Edward is a person who loves creating, a person who is also Asperger's.
Asperger's.
Asperger's, yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know what that is. It means that you're on the spectrum, right?
Right.
Like the autism spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, which is, it's differently enabled. That's what I call it. It is some type of disability, but I call it differently abled.
Yes.
Right, and then you are on a high functioning spectrum.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I can hold a job, I can hold conversations, but sometimes some conversations elude me, you know, especially when they bring up a certain topic. So I'm like, okay, are they really talking about me? You know,
Yeah.
and I don't pick it up until much later.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I actually protect that because what he doesn't understand, I do. And so I won't say anything at the time, but afterwards I'll say, babe, this is what they meant when they said that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was not anything kind. It was not anything. It's not a joke. And if it was a joke, it's a joke about you, not with you.
Right. And so for those of you out here, if you have children who are on the spectrum, we have an adult here who has lived with the spectrum his entire life, who is actually very, very successful. And so there's a nugget there for you as well to tune in.
Yeah.
So you said somebody who is a creative, you are diagnosed as Asperger's. What else?
I love her very much. I mean, you want to go into the past or?
No,
Yeah,
let's talk
sure.
about what you do now. Let's talk about.
Well, yeah. Right now, I'm a system analyst, engineer for Microsoft. I work UK hours, so I work early mornings till noon. I help customers in the UK and around the world, but mostly UK customers.
Right. So you're working for Microsoft really for the United Kingdom. So you're working night hours because it's day over there.
Right.
Right. Okay. I have to break it down because I call it geek speak.
Right.
So a lot of people don't necessarily understand a lot of the geek speak, and I love it because my son speaks geek, and so I don't understand all of it, but some parts of it. And we love our geeks. Geeks rule the world. And so you are a techie, essentially. That's what you are. That's what you are.
No,
okay.
I'd say he's a geek because he loves some Star Trek too. Very much.
Very big fan of Star Trek. Yeah. And the audio guy back there is like, yeah.
Do that thing that you do, babe.
Oh my gosh.
Don't do the finger, live long.
Yeah, live long.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
and that's how we actually, when we met, because we both love Star Trek so much, and there's a lot of things together that we love so much that makes us both big geeks. But I'm sorry, you're talking about Antonio.
Yeah. So that's essentially who you are. You are a techie. You are a creative, and you are somebody who's also on the spectrum. We're gonna go deeper into that because I really want everybody to get to know a little bit about how you grew up and what your past is.
Yes.
And so, Serenity, how would you describe yourself in a few sentences? Who is Serenity Edward?
Well, I grew up, born and raised on the south side of Chicago proper, not a suburb. Went to Catholic school, elementary, high, and college, private school. Came out, joined the Army. And the main reason I joined the Army is because my brother did not know how to pass the ASVAB, and he didn't want to go by himself to do it. So I said, look, we'll go together. We'll both pass the ASVAB, and I'll tell them I don't want to join, and you tell them, and they'll ship you off. Unfortunately, my brother did not actually pass the ASVAB again. I did, and the score was so high, they were like, they would not take no as an answer for me, and I became a journalist. Public affairs.
So you were a journalist, a public affairs specialist in the Army. So you joined the Army as a journalist.
Yes.
All right, awesome. And that has been your passion because you are a writer, a screenwriter.
Yes.
As well as a director.
As well as a producer,
And
absolutely.
as well as a producer. All right, and we're going to go deeper into that. So that is essentially who Team Edwards, and that's the name you go by.
Yes.
Team Edwards.
Yes.
Make sure it's Edward, not Edwards.
Please.
Okay, Team Edwards.
No
Okay.
less.
So Antonio, so you south side of Chicago. Where did you grow up?
Pasadena, California.
Okay, so Cali, and so Pasadena, California, and I think I read somewhere that you went to Cal State. You didn't go to the amazing University of Southern California. Not everybody can, but you went to Cal State.
See, and this is where I do.
I understand.
No, this
No,
is
I
where.
got that one.
Okay, yeah.
He got that one.
Yeah, this
That's
is where I would
California
usually
State
explain to him.
University. California State University of Los Angeles is just maybe a mile away or 2 miles away from your USC.
Yes.
But that's where I went. I got an electrical engineering degree.
Awesome. And I have to tease him because, being rivals, the USC and the Cal State. But I think it's just so amazing. So you have an engineering degree, which a lot of people don't know about that. And you were also, you worked for ABC for some time. Is that correct?
Yes. So after Cal State Ole, I started looking for jobs, and the aeronautical industry in 1993, it was just shut down. I could not get a job anywhere for Boeing, Lockheed, nothing. So my friend of mine was like, hey, they're looking for video editors at ABC, and he knew I was an editor, but I did it for fun. I really didn't think about it as a career. So I started working there, and 5.5 years later, got some really good experience. And ABC is owned by Disney, so I worked at Disneyland. I worked at a lot of different Disney shows, movies, but mostly I worked for ABC News.
For ABC News. Okay, and how long did you do that?
5.5 years.
Okay, so ABC News. So engineering degree, you worked for ABC News. When did the military come in? Because you're a veteran as well.
Right. So when I met her, and that's another story. I decided that, I always wanted to join the military, but never did. So, and I was 29 years old, so I'm like, I better go ahead and do that before I get too old. So I went and signed up, and I got shipped off to Iraqi freedom. I signed up right before the towers came down in New York.
Oh, wow, wow. What was your job in the military?
Apache crew chief.
Okay, so that was the helicopter. Oh, wow.
So I got my taste of aviation finally.
So you finally got your taste of the aviation. Okay, awesome. And then, so military, so you guys, you said you met her and that's a different story. What is that story?
Wow. You want to tell it?
No, babe, I'm gonna.
We actually have a website about it.
Yes, we really do.
JourneyToUs.com. But So I taught this guy HTML. This was probably like in 1999 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was so impressed
Before WordPress
with
was a
course, because it was in 1999. The internet was still brand new and it was still fresh. So people were trying to learn how to do things. So when he was working with her on the internet, he told her about me, and because she was running a nonprofit organization at the time, and she needed help with the website. And not to say you couldn't design a website, but she needed extra help because there was so much. So she contacted me on September 1st, 2000.
You remember the date and everything.
Yeah, I remember it very well because then we started talking. We talked every night. And we would fall asleep on each other. We started talking about Star Trek, which was also like, oh, she's a Trekkie. Yes. So then on the fourth day, I'm like, we should get married. And then
wait,
hold on. We should get married.
Is that a proposal?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's
wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'm honest.
We are honest. We're not lying.
So September 1st, you called to help because you're the tech guy. So you're helping her with some technical issues. You build a friendship, and then day 4, we should get married. And your answer is that a proposal? Oh, wow. Okay.
I thought you was going to say, what are you talking about? We never met,
Right.
Yeah. But
wait a minute, you never met? So you were
No.
in different places?
Yeah.
Right. I was in Louisville, Kentucky at the time, and he was in
Long Beach, California.
Long Beach, California. But I heard his voice, and to be able to talk with someone with that much intelligence without feeling like, oh, I have to, bring myself down. I can't sound so smart. That was a lot of the problem that I experienced, earlier, because I loved reading, I loved writing, and those types of things. So when I would talk to people, you sound white or trying to sound white, that type of put down and things like that. But here was a guy that I could talk to. His intelligence was right up there, and I said his voice and the things we talked about, I didn't have to feel like I had to dumb myself down for him.
Right.
The things he spoke about, he was sometimes surprised I knew about them, but I was like, but the fact his surprise was pleasant. It was good. And for once I could just be me, instead of trying to fit into somebody's mold of what because I'm so dark, people really want to think I stick in another angry or whatever, but that wasn't me at all. And then he just appreciated me being smart, me liking to read, me liking science fiction and things like that. And I didn't have to excuse myself anymore. I didn't have to. And neither did he.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people considered him weird, dorky, all of this other.
So you guys it was just a good fit.
Right.
It was just a really, so 4 days later, you said, is that a proposal? It sounded good. You're in Kentucky. He's in California. This is 1980.
No, 2000.
Oh, so this is in so okay. So there's pictures. You can see pictures.
Right.
I remember what the internet
the
was doing
pictures.
then. Okay, so you guys actually saw each other, and then.
Well, no, the pictures that we sent were not nothing like what they've got the Instagram and nothing like that.
Yeah,
Because there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, but there was there Skype? Was there Skype in 2000?
Yahoo groups.
And I don't think
and
Skype
Yahoo
was
Messenger
in,
was
no.
at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
MSN Messenger.
Yeah, so you could somehow get a thumbnail or something, but it was very hard to do. So we really didn't see each other, not until the day we saw each other.
November 3rd.
November 3rd
2000.
of 2000, yes.
It was one day before her birthday.
Yes.
Okay, and then that's when you got married?
No.
No.
We met each other, and we we were actually going to an internet conference.
Right.
It was happening in Atlanta, Georgia. We decided to make that our neutral spot. So she's not coming to California. I'm not going to Kentucky.
Right.
Atlanta, Georgia was the spot. So we met, and then we went to the conference together. But yeah, first minute I met her, I was like, oh, that's the one right there.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And so then you got married.
Not exactly.
So we met one more time in January
Right.
2001.
Right.
And then March, I told her I was going to join the Army because I need to do it before I get to a certain age. And so we eloped to Vegas.
Yeah.
And on March 20th, we got married.
2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
2001.
And it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, some people date for 2-3 years, and so amen.
Yeah.
4 days after you knew she was the one you
Yes,
met,
I just knew.
you got
Yes.
married.
Yeah.
All right, so now you're married. You're married. You're in the military. Life is going great in the military.
Yeah. His first duty station was in Germany, Hanau. So he's like, "Well, babe, we're going to Hanau," and I'm like, "Okay, I've got to get a passport, and I've got to get shots, and I've got to all of this," and I
Oh,
did
you
it.
had to get shots for that. That's
Yeah. And so then I hadn't seen him. We hadn't seen each other actually because we married in March, and it was the day before Christmas. And that was the first time I would see him again.
And then we actually lived together.
And
started with Christmas.
because we never tried to,
Yeah.
do anything before that. So that was the first time that I saw him, and he was my husband, and we were going to be together. And it was.
It took a long time for Germany to get the housing together.
Yeah.
So I was in the barracks for a very long time, and almost every week, I would go to the housing department and say, "I need what's going on." It was like they were just being like a snail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally, they were able to get the paperwork together. She had to go to some Kentucky post. What was that, Fort? The one in Kentucky, Fort Knox.
But no, Fort. I know what you're talking.
Yeah.
So we went there, and then she was able to do her paperwork. Finally, we were able to get her a plane ticket, and she flew out. And on December
Okay.
24th is when we
Yes.
first started living together.
Okay.
2001.
Okay.
Yes.
So now you're together, you're in the military. Are you making films at that time, or is it an idea that you have?
Well, no, because
military.
because then came Iraqi freedom.
Okay.
But he did make a film while he was over there, and he shows that film all the time.
It's called Dragons in the Middle East.
It's called Dragons in the Middle East. Actually, he got commanders, he got NCOs, as well as officers to speak to him about how they were doing
The
over there.
experience. Okay, so
Right.
it's kind of like a documentary.
Right.
Right, and then what we did here on the Army-wide, the spouses side, is we created videos for the wives and their children to say hello to the soldiers.
Oh, wow.
And then-
Okay.
Over there. So
Then I got to me, and then I was able to edit it and show it to the shoulders.
right,
Okay.
Soldiers over
exactly.
there, yeah.
All right.
So-
how did you go from the Army to Microsoft? Because we said that you worked at Microsoft. So were you with Microsoft before, or was that after?
No, that was after. So in 2006, ETS, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and we got a
job in IT.
in IT at a university.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say which one.
Okay, so we got a job, IT University.
Right. So, and we were doing really good. I mean, together we were making six figures.
Yeah.
We eventually bought a car or two
Two
cars. We had a nice 4-bedroom house, just the two
Yes.
of us.
Yeah.
And we were living pretty on top of the world. I mean,
Yeah,
it was really
and,
nice.
and in the office, we were seen as like the power.
power couple.
Yeah, when we walked down the path, everybody would just like,
Yeah.
And they was
So you were doing very well.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this new regime came in and laid off 5,000 people throughout the university, and she was one of them. I was saved. And so when they laid her off, my manager came to me and said, "Yeah, your wife just got laid off. Just go ahead and take her home." So I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So yeah, and then after that, she tried to look for a job that made anything close to what she made before, and just could not. She worked a job that made like minimum wage. 6 months later, I left the company, and I couldn't find any work that made equal to what I was making either. Because she was making 80, I was making 75. And so then all of a sudden, our savings account started drilling. We did get jobs, but it wasn't paying enough to pay for the mortgage and 2 cars. So one car got repossessed. We were able to keep the other car, and then the house went away too. And so we ended up moving to Chicago to be with her mother. After her mother got better, because she was actually sick at the time, we drove down the freeway to Nashville, Tennessee. And we ran out of money, so we ended up sleeping in our car in Nashville, Tennessee. And now remember, we had a car that we're still paying for.
Yeah.
It wasn't being paid for. So it was actually a stolen car at that point. But we slept in the car, and I went to Labor Ready, worked there every single day to try to save up money. And finally, we had enough money to make it on to Austin because I heard.
So you were essentially homeless at that point.
At
so
that-
we're
yeah.
looking at, you ETS from the military. You both get jobs as IT, making pretty good money at that
Pretty good,
time.
yeah.
You have your house, you have your cars, and then all of a sudden,
It's gone.
trouble hits. You're laid off. Then 6 months later,
Yeah.
you're gone, and everything you've worked for is now.
It's now
Like a
It's-
house
it's
of
not
cards,
gone.
just
It's like you said, a house of cards. Everything is gone, and you're now sleeping in your cars, your car that you're not paying for,
right.
and you're in Nashville, and so you go from Chicago to Nashville, and so then what? What happens next?
So we made it on to Austin.
Now, why did you? So you left Nashville to go to Austin?
Oh, because Microsoft was hiring.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah, and so I wanted to get that job. And so we made it to Austin. Then Microsoft told me, oh, it's been postponed. We're not going to start for another 6 months. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So then she started working at another company in Austin.
Yeah.
And I would take her to work, and I'll just go find some place cool to sleep. And then all of a sudden, on the window, and it's like tow truck there. I'm like, oh. And there was a cop parked a little bit of ways. So I had to take all of our stuff out of the car, and we ended up sleeping in the street for a couple of days until we got the stuff in storage. And at that point, we were homeless in the streets.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you in the streets homeless?
I would say about, in Nashville, it was 4 months in the car, 4 or 5 months. And then I would say in the streets, about 2 months.
About 2 months. What was that like? Paint us a picture of what that
You wanna go?
what that experience was like.
Well, how humiliated would you have to be to tell people you can't even afford to wash yourself or to get something to eat? You can't even afford a glass of water or a bottle of water. You can't afford anything.
Yeah.
And having to put that on a sign and stand there as a man and say, I can't afford to feed my wife, I can't afford to feed myself, I can't afford to feed our pets or anything. How humiliated do you have to be to have that going on?
Yeah.
And he did it. He did it with every day. He wouldn't allow me to do it. He would never allow me to fly the sign. But he did it for us. And every day I could see chips and more chips of him just breaking away. Because it didn't break him. But it was every day he just felt, and one day he came and said, I am so humiliated. He has a degree in electrical engineering, and he's on the street.
Yeah.
Not a drug addict. I don't drink.
Yeah. And that's what most people would think about us, that we had somehow caused this. We had, whatever we had done in our life is this is exactly what we deserve for doing that. Never asked us, did we serve our country, which we both did. Never asked us if we were law-abiding citizens. Never asked us if we were what our past had been. They only knew what we were right then. A couple of homeless black people without a pot or a window.
Yeah.
And that's how we got treated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the very last sign that I flew, they call it flying a sign. That's the terminology. You're just standing there flying a sign. The last sign I flew is hanging up in my office right now. Because I
Wow.
work from home, so every day I look at it when I'm working for my job, and I look at it and say, never again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never again.
Never
Never again. And so, wow, if you are just joining us now, we're talking to Antonio and Serenity Edward. We're talking agnosticism, we're talking homelessness, near-death experience to victorious, award-winning filmmakers. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and thank you for being so transparent with your story. And so, Serenity, as you're sharing now, being homeless in the street, what was your faith like, or what has been your faith experience?
Wow.
And so,
Well,
Antonio.
I have to say, I'll do this
You
first,
go first,
darling.
Serenity.
Yeah. There's no way that we could have gotten through the things that we got through. The bad weather, not getting, we didn't get robbed or attacked or anything. And I know that could have only come from God.
Yeah.
That only God could have gotten us through, because we could have been killed.
Right.
We could have been robbed. We could have been hurt. But that never happened to us, because our belief in each other and our belief in God never faltered.
Yeah.
We knew we had gotten here. It was a test, but God will not put anything on you more than you can handle. And he did not.
Did you have your faith in God going through it at that time? Did you know that this was a God thing while you were going through it?
Well, what we talked about is it could be no other way, because there's nothing that's man-made that would actually get us through this in a way that made sense. Only God could have, because there's so many people that we knew in the homeless community who couldn't make it out, who couldn't get out. And even people who enjoyed it and enjoyed robbing from people who were in the homeless community just trying to get out. I mean, there were just so many different things, but only God could save you, because you have to believe, because believing in God, you are of God, and then you start to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So the belief in yourself and the belief in God is what will move you and take you to where you need to be.
Amen.
And He will make sure you succeed. He made sure we succeeded through everything.
Yeah.
So for us, understanding, it would be hard, and I don't understand people who would come through a situation like that and think that God is not responsible.
Yeah.
Are you lost?
I
Yeah.
have to say
and
something
and
different.
everybody has their own experience, right? And they process it differently. Antonio?
Oh yeah. So we were actually going to a very nice church in Phoenix, Arizona, and I really appreciate it. I was about to start working the audio and doing some stuff for them, but then this happened, and so I'm like, this is messed up. I've always been through a lot of different religions. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, but then my father wanted me to do some things with him, and then after that, I went to several different churches, and I just didn't find a home. I just didn't. It didn't feel good, It seemed like they were either doing it for money or whatever. So I'm like, I'm done. So I just gave it all up, And I
When you say you gave it all up, what does that mean?
just became an atheist or agnostic, and just and I always believed in higher power, but I didn't believe in religion.
Okay. So that's and I think a lot of people would say that's agnosticism, right? Where you believe there's something bigger than me.
Right.
I'm not necessarily too sure if it's God.
Right.
So thank you for your transparency.
Well,
Yeah.
but then we came here.
Yeah.
Then we came here.
Well, before we came here, I want to hear the journey. And so going through it, Antonio, you were saying that, so from Phoenix, you're going to a church, this happened, and you're in a state of unbelief. And so,
And I always felt like whatever happened, I helped myself. I never thought there was no guidance or anything. I mean, either she helped me or I helped myself. It
Right.
wasn't but one thing that did give me a little bit of thought with that was one day I was flying a sign. I was in the median of a street, and this lady drove up and gave me a $10 bill. Okay, no big deal. It happens all the time. Then about an hour later, she came back up with a bank envelope and gave me a $300
wow.
in 20s. And so I didn't look at it at first. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Oh, maybe you're the same lady that came through, huh? Said, no, take a look. I'm like, oh my goodness. It was at that moment I ran to where she was sitting with some other homeless people on the side. And I said, babe, let's get ourselves a hotel. Let's get ourselves cleaned up. I'm about to do that interview with Microsoft. I want to make sure I'm good and clean. And so luckily, and it seemed like it all worked in the order, because just when I was about to do the interview, I was able to get cleaned up, and we were able to get something really good to eat that day. I mean, it just all worked out.
Yeah, I think Pastor Coffee calls those destiny helpers.
Yeah.
Right? So that would be
She
one of
definitely
your,
was.
yeah, so that was one of your destiny helpers just when you needed it the most. You know, she showed up. We don't know who she is. She could be an angel, right? Just showed up with exactly what you needed in order to take you to that next step.
Exactly.
In order to take you to that next step. Destiny helpers, we all have them, and we've been hearing them a lot on Overcomers Talk. You've heard so many stories from us about individuals who have experienced losses, who have experienced horrific things that they have gone through, but somehow they have managed to overcome. And this is what this show is about. It's really talking to real people with real issues who have overcome circumstances. When we come back, Antonio and Serenity are going to talk to you about how they got from homeless to thriving, and then something that almost took it away again, Serenity's near-death experience. All right, so I want you to stay tuned. We will be right back. We're going to take a short break and give some time to our sponsors for this show. If you're interested in being a sponsor, please reach out to us on openfire@admin.ofif.org. Welcome back. Welcome back to Overcomers Talk. I am your host, Minister Carrie Ann Zamore, and if you have been watching, you can hear the story of Serenity and Antonio Edward at how they went from a thriving business engineering degree from Southern California, making 6 figures to homelessness, living in their car, and then also living in the streets of Austin. They talked about their destiny helper who drove a car up to exactly where he was holding a sign for food and gave him an envelope with $300 cash in there. And from that $300 cash, they were able to get a hotel, a good night's sleep, a meal, and then go to his interview at Microsoft. I'm talking to Antonio and Serenity Edward, and this is Overcomers Talk. All right, guys. Oh, I have goosebumps. I have all the feels from your story. Although I've heard it before, every time I hear it, I pick up a nugget. And this is one of the parts I didn't know was about your destiny helper, right? So talk to me about that. So you have the envelope in your hand. You're like, hey, Serenity, we have money. Let's get a hotel, let's get some food. And you walk in there for your interview at Microsoft. Talk to me about that.
Oh, wow. It's went to Walmart, got a cheap suit, just something to wear. I remember taking a shower that night, getting all that nastiness off, because sometimes we'll get before we will go to a gym and pay just for one day just to go in there just to take a shower, just to get a good shower. Sometimes we don't have clean clothes. You have to put the same clothes back on.
Yeah.
This time, we took a shower, then we went to Walmart. I was able to get a cheap suit. Went to my interview, and I remember sitting there, and it's like, I always wanted to work for Microsoft, so this is pretty cool, So, and then about a month later, they said I got the job. But what took so long was the fact that onboarding took 6 months. So, but luckily, I was able to find another job to maintain our hotel stay. And then we finally rented a place with two other couples. So it was like a 3-couple house. And we rented a room, so we stayed there for a while, and then
And then you started working with Microsoft, and things are looking good now. You have a steady income. You're making you're making your money. You have a place to live. You can breathe again.
Yes.
And so talk to me about that. You can breathe again. You're getting a place to live.
Yeah, and that's when we started coming together to write the film. You know what I'm saying? And
So now you're writing films. Okay.
yes, well, I was writing. I'm the screenwriter.
You're the writer. He's the editor, and you both direct.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I was like, yeah, let's do this, and we were really excited about working together because that was our first.
Yeah, it was the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, that we were working together, and so I wrote it and I cast it, and then it was we had location and everything.
Yeah, and it was one of the movies she was doing was called In Utero, and so that was our first film that we actually liked. That we said, yeah, this is gonna be a good film. Then all of a sudden.
But you had other films because there was Forward. You had a series that you had written.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so there were some other films.
Oh,
that
there
you
were
had
plenty
been
that I
working.
had written,
Yeah.
but actually produced. In Utero was going to be our first, and but I had written. Goodness gracious, how many do I have?
Yeah.
Time, introvert. Yeah, I have like honestly 8 short films, and then we had the TV series Forward, and then we had so a lot of things I was writing.
Right.
But
so you're doing a lot of writing. You have a TV series that you had actually begun to shoot already.
Yes.
And then you have your big project that you're working together. The first one as Team Edwards, because you have Team Edward, because you have your projects,
Right.
and the Shiz, and now you've come together to do a project together in Utero. You have the casting, you have the location, everything is ready to go. You're on top of the world again because you have the job, and everything seemed to be smooth sailing. And what happens?
Want me to cover this part?
we can cover it together. But yeah, you can start.
Yeah.
She was. I was editing a short clip for a film festival, just to show, and it was for Emma Rose Gill, and it was her little film festival. She was on like 15 at the time or something like that. So, and then she came to me and said, "Hey, I'm not feeling too well. I'm gonna go lay down." I'm like, "All right, all right, babe, love you. It's just no big deal." And so then I told her I would make her some tea. I'll bring it to her. So I finished up an edit. But then I was about to go get this heat, but all of a sudden I heard like coughing coming from the room. And this coughing and this, I'm like, babe, are you okay? You need some water? But then when I went into the room, she was laying on her back and it was just a lot of vomit coming out. And so I was like, whoa, what is going on? So I turned her to the side and cleaned her mouth out and just let her vomit over the bed. But then when I kept trying to shake her and wake her, she would not come to. She would not respond. It was just her coughing, just constantly shaking and seizing. And so
she was having a major seizure and throwing up in the midst of the seizure, so you couldn't wake her up.
I could not wake her up for anything. So I ran to my roommates. We were still in that house, and they were like, "Oh my goodness!" So they came in. One of them was got on 911 and guided 911 to the house, and so he was outside guiding them in. It seemed like it took forever, but they said it was only like 5 minutes. So and they were able to get her into the ambulance. So I was following them. I remember following them down the road, and all of a sudden they pulled over, and I'm like, okay, that's not good. They turned off the lights, pulled over. So I pulled her right behind them. And when I got to the back of the ambulance, I guess they have those kind of mirrors where they can flick it, and it just blocks out where I can't see inside. So he cut me off, from seeing what was happening. Well, I found out later that she actually had died, coded, and they revived her. They were to take her all the way in. CTMC in San Marcos, Texas, wasn't equipped to do anything for her situation, so they flew her into
St. David's
in Austin. And I remember sitting there, and I was right around the corner from where she was at, and they were like, we're going to lose her. And I remember hearing that, and just chaos and everything happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we got a drill in there. We got to put a drill in there. And I remember it's the same household drill you buy at a hardware store. That noise. And I'm like, and it sounded like it was going right through concrete. And they were drilling her head.
Oh, wow.
To relieve the pressure, which is right about here. And they need to relieve that pressure. They stuck a tube in there and they let it drain.
Because at that time, what you didn't know is that she had a major aneurysm.
There's a subarachnoid hemorrhage.
I'm sorry?
Subarachnoid hemorrhage.
So basically, that blood vessel in your head burst. Yeah.
Yes. And honestly, in that incident, most of those who suffer from a ruptured aneurysm, out of 5, 4 will die. And it's immediate. Usually.
Oh, this young lady okay, so she was in one room. This is when she was in recovery. Another young lady in another room, her mother came and saw her, and me and her will talk, because she were going through the same thing. Same thing, subarachnoid hemorrhage. One day I came in from work, and I looked over and it's like, oh, room is cleaned and emptied. And then the nurse came in and told me, oh, she passed away last night.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at my wife, I'm like, oh, man, that's the reality of that, just hit me. So
Yeah. And
no, you probably don't remember everything.
No, I was in a coma for 5 weeks. A lot of people would come by because what they would do, what Antonio would have them do, is to sign a poster board, and they would put their names on. And so that's the only way I knew they came by, but I didn't know anything. What I did experience while in the coma, I kept seeing my father, who died when I was 4, and my grandmother, who died when I was 28. I saw them. It was like a lake of some sort. I saw them over there, and it's almost like they were asking me to come. But then on the other side was Antonio. And it felt, I knew I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Then I just saw a bright light, and all I heard was a voice. It was not your time, child. No, that's what it said. It said, not your time, child. And nudged me back to where he was in the dream. And I saw that repeatedly over and over, not your time, child. So God let me know it was not my time.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. And from that point, I honestly believe God has always had a plan. He has a plan for us all. There's no way that I could survive that when 4 people out of 5 who suffer from that actually do die. I'm the one that didn't. I have to spend the rest of my life thanking God for that.
Yeah.
Because now I'm able to tell these stories. I'm able to help others who want to tell their stories. We're able to do all of these things, and it's only because of God's grace that I'm here to be able to do that. Because, and honestly, a ruptured aneurysm, the worst result is that you are permanently disabled.
Right.
There is no recovery. A lot of people think, oh, you'll be back the same. No, it's a new normal. It's medication. It's constant doctor visits. It's constant needing to nap, things like that. It's like even doing film and writing film, things like that. I have to really do it a different way because it's a new normal. When you are disabled, it is a new normal. And some people don't want to work with you anymore because you're not running at the speed of light anymore. I'm not. But those are people I probably didn't want to work with anyway, even before I was anything happened to me. And it just helps you to see, you get that 20/20 vision on who people really are, how they'll treat you.
So talk to me about what did that recovery process look like for you, Antonio? Wow. Because so now she's in the coma for five weeks. And my understanding is that you stayed by her side every day and every night. That's where you were for 5 weeks.
Yeah, I would stay with her every minute I was not at work.
Yeah.
Because I work from home. So I would go home, go to work, maybe take a shower, and then head back in and was with her all day and all night. And on the weekends, it was just her. You know, I was with her the whole time. So that's basically how the whole thing went down. Then eventually, she did come to for a bit, for a few days. And I remember it was at that point when I asked her, hey, I'm going to shut down production. We're not going to do anything. In utero, stop. We're going to cut everything off. And
this is when she woke up.
And she was like, no.
Because I had a trach.
No, she had a trach in her throat. So she could barely say it, but she was like, keep it going. You know.
Keep it going, don't
I was
stop.
like, are you sure you want me to continue working? She was like, yes. So that's when I was, and she actually worked on our film, In Utero.
Yes,
and
a second unit director. Yes.
And so that was really cool. So, and that film ended up winning a ton of awards.
Yeah.
And so after the incident, they put her in a less, what do you call that?
Not ICU.
ICU.
Rehab.
Yeah, it was a second ICU. Which
no,
is
it
not
was rehab.
It was ICU. It was ICU.
It was another ICU? Okay, all right.
But it was like a less, and then after that, they put her in rehab for about a month or so, and then they let her go home.
Yeah.
So what was that process like, Serenity? There's the near death, the coma, the recovery, and now you're home. What were those steps like for you recovering at home?
Difficult.
Yeah.
Because you go from being an independent person to having to ask for help and not realizing that there's a power in being able to ask for help because you are strong enough to realize, number one, I'm not capable of everything. I need to leave some things in God's hands, but He's given me the ability and given me a partner that will help me. So I need to ask for His help. And I did have to ask for help on a lot of things. In the very beginning, bathing on my own, I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to drive on my own. Use the restroom, all of that.
All the cooking.
Yes, all the cooking. Everything, because I suffer from tremors still and seizures. And a lot of people think, as a matter of fact, I went out and to a meeting in Austin, and they were like, well, why does your husband have to drive you? Because I'm not allowed to drive that far by myself anymore.
Yeah.
And no more than 5 miles.
And not for the rest of my entire life.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's from my primary care doctor as well as my neurological team. And that's just the way it is for most people who suffer from a disability of some sort. You have to take those, I don't even consider it a lump. It's like I just have to find a different way of doing the things that need to get done. And you educate yourself finding those ways to get things accomplished, to get things done. And then if you're not able to, then thinking about, is this something I need to be doing anyway?
Yeah.
Is this money I need to be spending? Is this, and it really taught both of us that, some things are not, the reason we don't have them is because we don't need them and they're not meant to have.
Yeah. So truly learning how to adjust differently. And you've definitely been adjusting, because you have gone head first into your projects, into writing again.
Yes.
And so your recovery process, what I would say, Serenity, as somebody looking on the outside, is that you never gave up.
No.
You never gave up. You kept on pushing. You kept on soaring. And your faith has even increased and changed, because now the both of you serve as part of a ministry.
Yes.
So
this
that's something.
is exciting, because when I came in here, I was like, I told Antonio, I said, I think we found home. But he enjoys
I was
it.
still a little reluctant at first. I mean, I'll tell you how I got the job. She contacted me because, we've already worked together for a lot of different projects. So she called me up and said, Carrie did, and said, hey, they really need someone to come in and help them with the video media department. I'm like, okay, I'll go talk to them. And I did. Came in and I saw how they were doing things. I'll do this. But I mean, I was like, I wasn't going to join the church or anything like that. I mean, it's just another church to me, And then she came with me and she got totally into it. I mean, I remember seeing her because, the control room is in the back there somewhere, and I would see her on the camera and she was dancing right there. And I was like, what are you doing? And then when she actually became a member, I'm like, what are you doing? And then, but then a little at a time, it just kind of, I just felt it.
It's made us better. And I tell you what, a lot of people may not. I mean, because we're humble. But so many fantastic things have been happening in our lives since we joined this church. I mean, just more and more. And then as we pray about things and as we think about things, it's just all coming in.
Yeah.
We haven't asked for it, but it's coming in.
Blessings upon blessings upon blessings upon
Oh
blessings.
my God. Speaking of the biggest blessing, right now, $8.
Yeah.
Okay, during our first feature film, and we're getting a grant to do it, and all of this. And then we started our nonprofit organization, and
So let's slow down.
All right. Yeah. See, this is where
let's slow down. Let's slow down. So, you're recovering.
Yes.
Right? You're writing again. You're getting involved.
Yes.
I know one of the things you've gotten involved is, filming stage plays, and I know one of them in particular, some of the songs have really resonated with you in that, and then coming into a church ministry and really started working behind the scenes, that you became connected.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You became connected to the point that you joined the church. And what I heard you say is, since joining the church, you have had so many good things, so many blessings happen in your life. And right now you're in the process, you're in pre-production for your feature film of a cast of over how many people?
52.
Over 52 people in your cast, where you're getting a grant for this film.
Yes, we are.
As well as you launched your nonprofit.
Yes.
I know you've participated in different speaking engagements to talk about veterans' health.
Yes.
And also talk about your story of survival as well.
Yes.
And so, again, blessings upon blessings upon blessings.
Yeah.
And so your film that is in pre-production right now, tell me about it.
I will leave that to Mr. Edward.
Oh. So just to keep the story short, it's about a restaurant owner who his wife passed a month ago. And it was her idea to own the restaurant. It was her dream. It wasn't his, but he supported her, of course. And so 20 years later, she ends up passing away, and he's just, his whole entire life just went 180 degrees. So there's this homeless couple who comes into their life, and they come in, and somehow with their friendship and just the energy that they had together, and of course God, they were able to get everything back up and running again, get his spirit up and running, and I'm not going to tell the rest of the story. But it's, you probably have a better elevator speech than that.
No, I don't actually, because I want to tell, me, I'll tell the whole story,
Right,
and
please
then
don't.
be like, ooh, I shouldn't have said that, but then I'll tell the whole
Because
story.
signed the NDA.
Yeah, exactly, yes. So, but honestly, I can say this. It's a story of faith in a family and of love and of truly, if you seek redemption and you give yourself to the Lord, it never goes wrong.
Amen.
It never goes wrong, and it is not going wrong for us at all.
Amen. Amen. What would you say to somebody out there, Serenity and Antonio, who is experiencing some hard times right now, possibly, looking at near homelessness? Because Americans are all one paycheck away from being homeless.
That's true.
Right? And so people who are experiencing some difficult times right now, may not be homelessness, maybe health issues, I don't know. What encouraging words would you say to them?
One of the first things I would do is I would first turn to God, but never turn away your spouse. There are so many people or couples that I've seen where at the first sign of any kind of distraught, it has to be his fault. Or, even if it is my fault, he should have got me out of it. Never turn on your spouse. Never turn on your spouse, because you know what? A person can feel, just imagine how my husband felt on the high, with a college degree, with a sign that said, we'll work for food.
Yeah.
Never that is not the time that you leave your husband. And take care of each other, because
Right.
I don't understand if people understand a covenant that is marriage. You don't just say some words. That actually means something. Sickness and in health, rich and poor. Yes. So when he's poor, I'm poor. When he's sick, I'm sick. And it's not a game. I think a lot of people just go in there and may just say some words, but honestly, it means something. So if I'm so sick that I cannot move and I need help getting to the bathroom, as my spouse, of course I would hope he would be there to help that. But a lot of people don't take it serious. It's a covenant not just with your spouse, but with God.
Exactly.
So you are denying God what God gave you. That's what a lot of it to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Just because as soon as somebody has a struggle, that's when they need you to help pick them up and walk with them.
Yeah.
You say something, babe. Now.
I know I have to say, she was there for me, when I was going through it, because I would think another woman would probably just left, and I would have been there all by myself, and I've seen it because I've seen it many times before, and where the woman did leave, and then she gets sick and not able to do things, and I'm sitting here taking her to the bathroom and doing everything that requires. You can imagine. And and I didn't leave her. I love this woman. I mean, why would I leave her? And I know she would never leave me, because there were many times where she could have. So yeah.
But honestly, I couldn't, because the covenant isn't just with you, it's with God.
Yeah.
So I said in front of everybody and to God that I would love you for the rest of my life. That's something serious that people need to take that seriously. I wasn't doing it I wasn't dressed up. We were at the courthouse. It wasn't anything like that. It was a promise, but God was there and you were there, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying to the couples out there, to the people out there who may be struggling, lean on each other.
Yeah.
Trust in God and lean on each other.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Trust in God and lean on each other.
And keep your promise.
Yeah. So how are you doing now? Coming from that aneurysm, what is your health like now? Serenity, are you back 100%?
No, and I never will be. I never will be again. I only have 80% of full brain function. That's all I'll ever have left. I still have certain challenges like seizures. I take a lot of medication to try and keep a lot of that under control. And I do have doctor's visits, many of them. But for the most part, I am overjoyed because I have the opportunity. I get to get up every morning and thank God for the chance to do it again.
That's
and
right.
that to me is makes me healthier than anything, and I get to look at this beautiful man every day. And we get to make magic and music and movies together. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it. And there are times, like I said, with the new normal, a lot of things are required for me to have to do. But now, I'm living.
Now the sky's the limit.
Living my life like so.
So what's next for Team Edwards? So I know you're in pre-production for $8. What is next for Team Edwards before we wrap up?
Oh man, well, I think it's what the Say Collective.
Yes.
What we
our
wanna
new
do
nonprofit
is, I mean, her idea is, is each one teach one, and everybody getting together and helping each other to make great film. A lot of what I want to do is to have the grant money in the budget to provide the technology, like Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, Aeroflex cameras and Reds, so that when we produce other people's films, they're getting what you will get if you walked into a Paramount studio lot. So
Quality work.
Quality work. And then the each one teach one, I think is great script writing, good story. It's not just one person writing; it's a group of people helping that one person bring their story to life. So it's a collective. Basically.
Awesome. Serenity?
I think it's important because you go to the independent film festivals and things like that, and you may see something that's not quite up to par. What you can do, instead of being an idiot and being mean, you could go up to that person and say, I saw your film. I'd like you to come on board with me and let me show you some things, and let's do something together.
Right.
And through the collaboration, show them the proper way to do it. There's no need.
Right, so to help.
Yeah, rather than this crabs in a barrel situation where we're trying to...
But they also have to share that help too.
Right.
Yes.
It's not just about them and their movie. It's about helping others as well.
Exactly.
Because I may be good at editing and this and that, but there are a lot of things I'm not good at. And she's a good writer and a director, but she's not editor. So
that is the each one teach one aspect.
So
all right.
And all the members of our executive board have their wheelhouse that they're part of, that they are really good at, and so that what they do is they mentor our members who are trying to learn that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Serenity and Antonio Edward. I really appreciate you spending your hour with us and sharing your very heartfelt story. And as you guys heard it here, the story of Antonio and Serenity Edward, from agnosticism to faith, from homelessness to a thriving film, award-winning movie, as well as nonprofit company, and then from a near-death experience, again, to living her life like it's golden. My name is Minister Carrie Ann Zamore. I have been your host for Overcomers Talk. And again, join us next week as we will repeat this story as we celebrate Bartlett's anniversary celebration. Again, thank you for joining us. I have been your host, and this has been Overcomers Talk. We're talking to real people with real issues. Good night.